Turner Sports.
Everybody wanna know about it. Everybody say,
This your old school kill.
I see it, boy.
Players only tonight, baby.
Come on.
Hey.
Players only, players only. Got my man Zeke in the house.
That's right, baby. Coming up next is Players Only, baby. You know how we do it.
We're here living.
Coming up, DJ Shacky Shack.
See that?
The big turntable.
Yeah.
The big mixologist.
The big mix.
The big party.
Big mix.
When a player gets traded, they was doing what's best for the franchise, but when a player decides to leave, he's not loyal, he's a snake, he's not committed. That's just that's the narrative of how it goes. So I'm definitely, I know that firsthand.
Yeah, Brian, you're preaching to the choir. We've all been there. And unfortunately, the next question is, Brian, are you going to be in Cleveland next year? You know that's what they're going to ask us. You yeah, you definitely want to know, but we will find that out later. But today, a lot of things going on. Excited about our games today, excited about being back for Players Only, baby, and welcome to Players Only Tip-Off Show presented by Auto Trader, C. Webb, Zeke, Barron, and you know the big DJ. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, we all know what happened today. Pistons got a new addition, and it's time for the Auto Trader player comparison. This is the big trade, and here it is, guys. The Pistons get Blake Griffin, Bryce Johnson, Willie Reed. They don't get Willis Reed. It ain't that good. Knicks coming back. Lateral. Hot Club Time Machine. And the Clippers get Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick in 2019. And guys, I know the whole sports world is talking about this, but Isaiah, to start with you, you know, you're a Detroit Piston for life, even though I don't know if you were you invited to the opening of where the Pistons play this year?
I haven't been to the arena yet.
So you won 2 championships and weren't invited. All right, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. But I can say that because I'm a fan first of the Pistons growing up there. But Zeke, you know, a lot of trades. This always happens. We 3 have been traded. You're the only one up here hasn't. But you're not only a Hall of Fame player, but you've been in that GM role. How did you get here if you are the Pistons? At this point to where you need to make this trade?
You know, that's a great question. And when you say, how did you get here, it really goes back to the draft, right? And when you talk about building a team and you're talking about, you know, reestablishing what the Pistons were all about, you got to do well in the draft. And right now, the Pistons have passed on, you know, Donovan Mitchell. They passed on Booker. They passed on Malcolm Brogdon, who was the Rookie of the Year. And when you look at the Pistons, where they've had problems at is really in the backcourt with their guard play. And these 3 players would have helped them. Now, you miss on those players. And so now you move forward and you say, okay, how do we get better? This brings you to the situation now where we got to gamble. You got to play hully-gully now, and you take a chance on the Blake Griffin. Now, it's been advertised that Blake is an all-star. He was an all-star, but he's not an all-star now. The last 3-4 years, Blake Griffin hasn't made the all-star team. That's just real talk. When you look at the 24 players that go to all-star game, he hasn't been one of them. Now, does he have the name of the all-star? Absolutely. Is Blake a great player? Absolutely. Potentially could be a Hall of Fame player. Drummond, all-star. Same thing. Now, when you look at the NBA now, though, it's a perimeter's game. It's a guard-oriented game. It's about the 3. It's not about the power forward, and it's not about the center. So can you find perimeter players now to fit those 2?
You know, Shaq, when we look at this trade, and of course we'll be probably talking about it all night, we've already seen Blake be successful with DeAndre Jordan. Do you think he can be successful with Drummond? And you haven't played for Van Gundy before. What is it like to play for him? What advice would you give Blake going to the Pistons?
Well, let me answer the Van Gundy question first. Sort of a perfectionist. Excellent X and O man. Gets very emotional. Sometimes emotions equate to yelling. Now, I don't know what type of player Greg is. See, me, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, drill sergeant father, so the yelling was cool. But the question is, I've never really seen Blake get yelled at. We'll be able to handle that. And Stan, with Stan, has never come from a negative place. He just wants things to be perfect. He comes from, the Pat Riley culture. And, but Isaiah makes a very great point. This game is not about the bigs anymore. So, if they were similar to DeMarcus and Anthony Davis, two guys that could score, it would be up. So Blake's going to do his thing, Drummond's going to do his thing. But in this trade, I think the Clippers got the better of the deal. They definitely got better. They got a first-round draft pick, a second-round draft pick, and the business of basketball is ugly. When I first came here, I said, damn, the Clippers did Blake like the Lakers did me.
Or like the Wizards or Bullets did me. I feel like Blake is going what I went through with the Wizards.
Blake out of L.A.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, then, BD, what do you feel about this trade, and how do you think it affects the Clippers? We need to talk about them. They're in the playoff chase, and still, a lot of injuries. I think Doc had his best coaching year this year, actually, with all the injuries. Didn't see how they were in this place. Do you think guys like Lou Williams and Jordan will be back? Is this the beginning of a domino effect? Do you like the trade? 1,000 questions. Answer them all.
1,000 questions. I say, I would say I trust Jerry West. You know what I mean? I trust the mastermind behind the system. And so when you're looking at somebody like Blake and you're looking at DeAndre and Lou Will and what the Clippers are trying to do, the trade actually helped the Clippers. Getting Tobias Harris, getting Avery Bradley at the guard position, it just gives them a little bit more versatility. They were playing well without Blake out the lineup. And then I also think that Blake is going to do well in Detroit because it's almost the Clipper team that he should have had as far as talent and athleticism around him. You talk about Reggie Jackson, you talk about Stanley Johnson now as a three, being a mobile guy, and then you got him and Drummond. It's the same thing with him and DeAndre, the same type of big man dominance. So I think Blake will be the focal point back to Detroit, which will allow him to be an all-star and be the distributor because that's what they need. But, for the Clippers, I like this move for the Clippers, too, because you get those picks. Tobias Harris is playing well, and, Avery Bradley is going to be steady and solid for them if they have Lou Williams still, and then Patrick Beverly and Talinovich, the other guy.
Well, the Pistons definitely don't have anything to lose. A new arena, they need to fill it up, and they've lost 8 in a row. So they need to make sure. Wait, Isaiah tore his Achilles.
Slide some oil on the
That's Nipsey Russell.
Slide some oil on the knees.
Okay, Zeke.
Slide some oil on them shoulders.
That's that old school slide.